Right, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. It is the bottom line, and we say business at the speed of thought. Tonight, we turn our attentions to the Ghana COCOBOD. In April, we had the president or the government announce an increment in the prices of cocoa. We had some farmers jubilate, and it eventually turned into politics about whether farmers are gaining or farmers are actually losing. That's against the increment in prices, the percentages that the farmers are getting, and so on and so forth. We've had the conversation for quite some time now, and we've seen some data and reports recently with some other people also commenting on the same issues and whether it's favorable for farmers, what the country is actually even gaining from the entire cocoa industry, the seeds that we are exporting, how much we are making out of it, and whether we are improving. Some few years back, we saw a whole structure of the COCOBOD telling us about how they are restructuring the entire cocoa industry, pruning some trees and ensuring that after some years, the gains from these cocoa trees will be maximized. Are we there yet? And how and why has this turned into politics? Tonight, we are privileged to be getting the head of the Public Affairs Directorate of the Ghana COCOBOD to be speaking to some of these matters. We would ask him the questions, but we would also allow him to speak to some of the data and the figures that we have, and we'll put it to him. The reports that are coming as to the decline in the overall revenue that we are making out of the cocoa industry. Is that the case, and what's actually are the basis of it? You want to stick and stay with us. When I come back, we'll have FIIFI BOAFO, who is the head of the Public Affairs Directorate of the Ghana COCOBOD, and we will speak to him. I am Kwesi Free. Stick and stay with us. We'll be right back. Right, you're welcome back from the break. As I told you early on tonight, our focus is on the Ghana COCOBOD, and we want to be speaking to them about what's happening exactly in the cocoa industry. And I am privileged to be hosting tonight the head of public affairs of the Ghana COCOBOD, FIIFI BOAFO. I always mention, and I don't forget, that he's part of the people that trained me, and I think that it is important that I come very clean on that every time I have to host him. But I'll still put the questions up to him. Good evening, boss. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I hope you are well.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. And it's a pleasure to be here. So.
And it's been a while. I hope you're doing very well.
It could have been better, but it's manageable.
But you're not in too much of good times, if I should say, COCOBOD.
Well, I think that when it comes to governance, it's a responsibility. And when a responsibility is given to you, your duty is to deal with the issues that come up. If there were no issues, there wouldn't be people mandated or responsible for addressing those issues. So when issues come up, the question you need to ask yourself is, are the issues being addressed? Are there policies seeking to change what it is, or it is just business as usual? So if you have concerns, if you have challenges, if you have problems, what you need to assess is how those challenges are being addressed. So for sure, there are some challenges, but then the expectation is that those challenges will be addressed, and precisely that's what is being done. You
admit that currently you have challenges as an industry?
I believe, yes, there are some challenges.
There are declining revenues.
Well, yes, the revenue this year has declined. And the reason for the decline is pretty obvious, and with the opportunity, I will explain.
Yes, please go ahead.
What has led to the decline in revenue and how we seek to reverse the trend. I think the decline generally. So, what comes in? The revenue that comes in, where does it come from? It basically comes from the cocoa sales. So, if your cocoa sales are dwindling, or if your production numbers are not as high as it used to be, it would definitely affect your revenue. And that is what is causing the problem. But why are the revenues going down? What is the reason why this year, in terms of production, COCOBOD is not meeting the numbers we've seen over the years. Bear in mind, in 2020, 2021, Ghana recorded the highest production ever seen. The people who also pretended the highest production ever seen are the people who are still in charge of the industry. It therefore means that
was 1.2
about 1.47 million
tons
metric
of cocoa,
tons. Yes,
metric tons of cocoa.
And the people who did that are still the people in charge. So it gives you an indication that they have the capacity of.
Before you go on, I mean, I would come back to the politics of it, but someone would say that maybe it's what you had inherited, but 2021 is barely 5 years since you took over.
Yes.
So what had happened? 1.4 million metric tons.
Over 1.04 million metric tons. What really happened was that there were a number of interventions that had been rolled out. And the result of the interventions is what we saw in 2020, 2021. Those who will suggest that probably it's a rollover benefit, it would have been the case in probably the subsequent year or two. But this was 4-5 years later. So it tells you of the measures that have been
2017, 2018, 2019, 2020.
That's where
and then 2021.
Yeah. So that's why you saw that major increase in terms of production. But back to what the experience is at the moment in terms of production numbers.
Yes.
There is one very significant thing that has happened, and it's a weather condition. The geographers will tell you it is known as the El Nino. El Nino basically talks about extreme weather conditions. And what happened was that between April, May, June, where you do not expect heavy rainfalls, we recorded heavy rainfall around the period. And what happened was that it forced the cherries that grow up to be the cocoa pods, because that is not the time you expect the rains to come. And unfortunately, just after that, we've seen a very severe harmattan. I'm sure we are all aware of the recent report that in the month of April was the severest harmattan experience in so many years.
Yes.
It tells you why we are here. Those who make the argument that, Ghana is recording low production, you just oppose it with Cote d'Ivoire, and then Cote d'Ivoire is a better example because Cote d'Ivoire shares border with Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire is the number one producer of cocoa in the world. At present, Cote d'Ivoire is also experiencing a major shortfall in terms of production. And the reason why Ghana is experiencing this situation is the same reason why Cote d'Ivoire is also experiencing this situation. It is the weather. Of course, there are other factors which I'll touch on. So if Cote d'Ivoire is experiencing the same situation and as a result of that, their production numbers are down, and Ghana is experiencing, do you dare say that is as a result of mismanagement or lack of capacity on the part of those who are in charge of the management of COCOBOD? That is why our production numbers are going down.
Could it not be one of the reasons?
It is one of the reasons, but it is the major reason. Cote d'Ivoire is actually losing around 500,000 metric tons.
For
this season? Yes.
500,000 metric tons.
So are you then suggesting that in terms of Cote d'Ivoire, theirs is also as a result of mismanagement? Clearly, if you say so, then you are not being an objective analyst. And you are, or probably you do not even understand the issues of the industry. So that is one major thing.
But could you not perceive? I mean, we are in an era where we are talking about mechanization, perceiving that the weather can be a problem sometime in the future. So you prepare for it. You mechanize your farms. And
I share that because COCOBOD presently is actually seeking to irrigate farms. But of course, there's a reason why we've not rolled out
the entire plan yet.
We've done the piloting. So I'll touch on the issues of the irrigation.
Right.
But except to say that, yes, we admit that if you look at the weather pattern, irrigation is the way to go. But there's a reason why we've not rolled out fully at present.
Right.
So weather is major reason why we are not producing the numbers. The second reason has to do with the cocoa swollen shoot viral disease. The cocoa swollen shoot viral disease is a disease that has been with the industry for a number of years. except to say that at a particular point between 2014, 2016, there was a policy shift. And the policy shift, unfortunately, is what has driven us to where we are today.
2014, 2016.
2014, 2016. The shift was that initially, hitherto, COCOBOD was rehabilitating or treating the farms that have been affected by the swollen shoot. Between 14 to 16, the decision shifted. Now, COCOBOD asked the farmers on their own to treat their own affected farms.
Without support from government?
Without government treating the farms for them. But the support COCOBOD was given at the time was to make available seedlings for them. So when you treat your farms, then COCOBOD will provide you with the seedlings for you to plant. Reviewing that policy, what has come out is that farmers were reluctant in doing so. They were not treating the farms, and as a result, all the new seedlings they got, they either planted it under the trees that have already been affected by the swollen shoot, and they were also infected with the swollen shoot, and did not make the impact. It therefore allowed the spread
to fester.
That's the point. And if you go to Western North, Western North is the biggest producer of cocoa in our country. All Indeed. Right. It used to, well, let me say used to, because Western North alone was producing about 1/3
of the entire cocoa we
produce in the country. Now, Western North is a pale shadow of what it used to be. And there was a widespread. I remember in 2017, we were on a tour of cocoa communities. And around Bonsum, Kwanta, all through, you could see cocoa farms that were just been reduced to a mere firewood. Few leaves on them. Or
meanwhile, they had not been bent with fires,
no,
just the swollen shoot disease.
The swollen shoot, it was as a result of it. In fact, prior to that, there were some farmers who were even alluding to the fact that, maybe it was some fertilizers they had used in the pada caused it. But then research showed that indeed it was a swollen shoot. This is a policy a government decided to roll out in addressing that challenge. Government then decided...
you think that was a defective policy, based on the research you have?
Well, it did not yield results.
So we can call it a defective policy?
Well, for me, I would say that maybe the managers at the time felt it was the way to go. However,
it was still a defective policy. To result in losses.
The evidence suggests that policy did not help the industry.
So it was defective.
Well,
maybe because they are your predecessors, you don't want to get into that. But we can call it, based on the information you have given us, so we can say that it was defective.
Management then took a decision not to continue that policy, but rather find a better way of addressing the issue. And what was the better way of addressing the issue? Management then decided that going forward, government directive which management was implementing is to cut the affected farms, because you cannot use chemicals to treat the affected farms. You cut it. When you cut it, you apply arboricide, because if you leave the tree stumps to be there, the disease will still be in the farm. So you apply arboricide to make sure that you kill the stumps and eliminate the disease from the farm. Government then provides the farmer with plantain suckers, plant it for the farmer, plant cocoa seedlings for the farmer.
Government is doing
Government through COCOBOD. Yes. And maintain the farm to at least 2 years.
For the farmer?
For the farmer. At no cost to the cocoa farmer. And COCOBOD is taking care of that responsibility. And this is the policy that has been rolled out since 2019.
So when we heard that you were doing pruning and you were cutting farms, it was not as if you were just leaving it to the farmers.
Pruning is just one. I'll get to the issue about pruning. But this is rehabilitation program, which COCOBOD is executing for the farmers. Indeed, COCOBOD started by financing it from the COCOBOD funds. Later on, we realized the enormity of the challenge. So COCOBOD went to African Development Bank to seek for funding to rehabilitate these farms. And the result is what we have today. At no cost to the farmer. Indeed, the sweet part of this story is that The plantain that were planted in these farms, when harvested, it is just for the exclusive benefit of the cocoa farmer and not to COCOBOD. The farmer enjoys it alone. So his farmer enjoys it at home, sells it, the profit is for the farmer.
100%.
At least 100%.
At no cost.
At no cost.
Nothing comes back to the COCOBOD.
No. Apart from that, COCOBOD also pays 1,000 Ghana cedi for every hectare that is rehabilitated to the cocoa farmer. And it's not just to the farmer. In a situation whereby the farmer is not the landowner, COCOBOD also pays the landowner another 1,000 Ghana cedis. So I remember when
to ensure sustainability of the farmers whose farms had been affected.
So somebody probably may ask, just like you are asking, why would COCOBOD spend all that?
Exactly.
COCOBOD did that because, just imagine, there's this example the chief executive cites all the time. Myself and yourself, after junior high school, you opted to go to secondary school. I opted to be a cocoa farmer. After 6, 7, 8, 10 years, you would have completed secondary school, completed university, and then started working, earning an income. I went into cocoa farming. My farm established after 10 years. I'm harvesting cocoa. Then swollen shoot hits my cocoa farm. And then COCOBOD tells me, go and cut everything.
The trees.
And start afresh. What will be the motivation for me? Because my colleague I completed junior high school
still
with,
earning at the end of the month.
Earning at the end of the month.
Or at the end of the year.
And then I have nothing to rely on. So it would be a disincentive to me as a cocoa farmer to treat the farm. So COCOBOD then decides that, you know what, we shall restore you to your glory days. We shall restore your livelihood back to you. So COCOBOD then provides all these for the cocoa farmer. So after 2-3 years, when COCOBOD hand over these farms to the cocoa farmer, then the farmer has something to say that, well, my toil did not just go
down the drain.
But then I have something to look up to. Indeed, we have farmers on record who had traveled from BA and part of Ashanti to Western North. Unfortunately, swollen shoe strikes, and these farmers have nothing to rely on. So they
just to
leave
return
and
back
go
to
back
either the BA or the Ashanti region.
Empty-handed. These farms have been restored, and the farmers are now going back to where they used to have their cocoa farms. And then they have something.
You have evidence of that? That they have
evidence
gone back
of
to
that.
The Western North region?
There are farmers who very soon, indeed, the expectation is that next month, we are handing over 40,000 hectares of these farms to the beneficiary
back to the farmers?
Yes. And the
but
farmers...
are the farmers aware of these? I mean,
oh, yes.
They should be, because it is
they
their farm.
But it is their farm.
I still want to ask you, are they aware that you're doing this for them?
So sometimes when you
40,000 hectares.
40,000 hectares already. It is ready. Indeed, there are farmers who have harvested about 40 bags from their rehabilitated farms, even though the farms are just 3-4 years. By 7th year, the farmers are going to realize the full benefit of these farms. These farmers are aware. So when people come on radio, they come on television to come and create a misconception out there. Of course, it is not all of us who have the benefit of experiencing what the farmers have experienced down there. So they do not know what has happened. Indeed, all these farms that have been rehabilitated, the effect is that if you cut off almost 100,000 hectares of cocoa farms, the little contribution they were making to your national production, you will not have it.
Of course.
Because these farms have been treated. If we had decided to say that, well, allow them, we get few pods on them, so allow them to continue producing for us. What would have happened is that in few years' time, all those
the
farms...
The entire farm, all
lost it completely.
The entirety of them would have been lost.
Completely. But because of this rehabilitation, temporarily, you will suffer the setback. And the setback is that you will not get the cocoa you were getting from these farms because they've been treated.
So, I mean, one is the weather. Two is your solution to the swollen shoot virus disease.
Precisely.
Which ended up in you, or as a government, or as an institution, cutting down, but I will call it sustainably, cutting down some trees and then preparing those trees again properly back to the farmers.
Precisely.
And so we are not seeing that yield now until it is ready.
Yes.
Is that the case?
Precisely. So if someone today is expecting that you will have the cocoa and then it's not available, the person who does not understand the cocoa industry or who just sits in Accra and then just want to create misconception in the minds of the people, to that person, they have failed. They have done the wrong thing. But the reality is that it is rather to make the industry sustainable at going forward. So that's the second reason why our production numbers are what we see today. The third one has to do with an unfortunate phenomenon which all of us are faced with, which is illegal mining.
I was going to come to that, but once it's part of your problems, let's just...
It is. We cannot wash it away. It's a problem. There are day in, day out reports of farms that people are cutting, and these farms, what happens is that you lose them. And unfortunately, we have lost these farms. So it affects our production. So yes, that's another challenge we face. The other reason, and I'm not too sure...
Before you go on, we've seen actions by government trying to tackle the illegal mining and so on and so forth. You are largely affected as an institution, you and your farmers. Let me say your farmers because you have them as your primary target people. Is there anything you are doing?
Oh yes, there are lots COCOBOD is doing in terms of helping address this concern. The first thing COCOBOD is doing in helping address this concern is, one, providing sensitization to these farmers, because some of the farmers willingly give out their farms for this illegal mining activity, and
they get paid. They get higher returns.
Well, it is not the case, unfortunately. What happens is that, so for example, if a farmer who is making about 6,000, 8,000 in a year, that farmer is presented with 50,000 Ghana cedis at a go. On the face value, it sounds like, whoa, that's a big deal for me as a farmer. But then if you amortize it over a period, because the farm will probably last for about 40, 60, 80 years.
And you will be making that money increasingly every month or every year.
Every year.
And now you go and take the 50,000 one-off.
So some of them, unfortunately, what has happened to them is that they take the money today, they decide to build a house. If you are even fortunate to be able to finish the house, how do you maintain the house and how do you maintain your lifestyle and then your family? It becomes a problem. And unfortunately, some of them, they are not even able to even complete their houses and then they have nothing to rely on. So some form of education and sensitization is going on for the farmers to appreciate the fact that it is not a better option. But another key thing is that there are a number of farmers too who are unwilling, but the majority, they are unwilling to allow these people to take over their farms. And in their unwillingness to do that, these people compel them to do so. And what COCOBOD is doing is that such farmers who have challenged in probably proceeding to court, because obviously you realize that the number of our farmers who their level of exposure is a bit limited in terms of going to court and all that. So they have a challenge, and that is where COCOBOD intervenes. We make available our legal team who intervene on their behalf, and indeed evidence is there, it is public record, that we have gone to court, pleaded or acted on behalf
of the
farmers, and they've been able to maintain their farms. That is also ongoing.
Right.
So there are several other things we are doing, but then yes, indeed, it has not solved the problem, and its effect is that it has affected our production. Another thing which is also affecting the numbers at present is smuggling. I'm very sure that people will be quick to say that, but smuggling, why are you not dealing with it, or why the smuggling? Why the smuggling? Because just as we started the conversation talking about production numbers, it is generally low across the globe. It is anticipated that the entire world production has fallen short. So there's limited cocoa available on the market.
And prices are increasing in other places.
And demand and supply,
of course,
obviously, will force the price
of
out.
course. But is this still happening? Because recently you increased by 58%.
Yes, but then the point is that Ghana had done forward sales. And the forward sales we have done, therefore, means that you have entered into a contract, an average of about $2,600. Today, we are talking about $5,000, $6,000 at the world market. Mm-hmm. Every cocoa we get as COCOBOD, we use that cocoa to honor the contract we have signed. Mm-hmm. So you have people who have decided to station themselves, some in Guinea, some in Togo. What they do is that they smuggle it out of our country mm-hmm. and they sell at the prevailing world market price and take advantage of it. You are not in a position to sell
at the prevailing
price because you've signed contracts already. And there's no excess for you to sell at the prevailing price. Mm. But when they have no such commitment. So what they can quickly do...
They can make their profits immediately.
Is to sell out at the prevailing market price and they make the profit. So that's what they are doing. Indeed, we are monitoring that. There have been several arrests and there have been successful prosecution of people involved in this activity. There are persons, about 5 persons, who are serving between 5 to 7 year jail term as a result of smuggling. So that is also another reason why we are where we are today. But it's unfortunate. Let me say this because I'm on this network. I heard my friend...
I'm going to come to that pretty shortly, whether we should politicize it. But there's a question that when we posted the discussion or conversation that came up, somebody asked whether our domestic debts, the domestic cocoa debt has reached $7.1 billion. Is that the case?
Well, COCOBOD has different debt portfolios. So if anyone makes this suggestion, it is important you let a person understand this. COCOBOD every year procures an international facility. That's the syndication. The syndication is paid from February to August. At the end of every month, you pay. So if you go and pick a figure somewhere and use it to form any conclusion, clearly you do not understand the issues because that debt is being serviced. Mm-hmm. Apart from that, there's also the issue about cocoa bills. Indeed, that issue has also been trumpeted specifically by the political actors in the media so much. But it's important I address that with your kind permission.
Please go on.
So in 2017, when the new management took over the administration of COCOBOD, they met a syndication that was procured the previous year to the tune of $1.8 billion.
Right.
This entire amount had been drawn down completely and spent. The cocoa year also starts from October and ends September the next year. And the entire $1.8 billion had been spent by December 28, 2016. Cocoa that year bought was 976,000 metric tons. The cocoa that had been bought as of December was around 540,000 metric tons. You ask yourself, how did the managers of the industry finance the remaining amount?
That's close to 500,000 or 400,000 metric tons.
Management had to go to the Bank of Ghana to procure a facility, cocoa bills, to finance the crop. That's not alone. There were contracts signed for the supply of chemicals and fertilizers for farmers. These contracts were executed when the new management took over. They had to be paid. The money, bear in mind, by 28 December 20 had been spent.
The $1.8 billion had been spent without contractors being paid.
Yes. So the new management had to go to Bank of Ghana, and they procured over 3 billion Ghana cedis. This money, because all the cocoa you got had to be serviced you had to service contract you had already signed. When you service all those contracts, the money had already been spent, so you do not have money readily to go and pay for the facility you took from the banks. What then happens is that you roll over the contracts. As you roll them over, it amounts to more debt on your books. So the people who are making the claim happily should know that they are a contributory factor to the COCOBOD financial situation.
Let me
on top of that.
Okay, you land on that.
On top of that, you also realize that the price of cocoa was over $3,000. Just around December 2016, the price dropped significantly to even at a point $1,800.
Yes.
Government took a decision, and the decision government took was that it was not prudent to reduce the farmer's price. Indeed, it is on record. I remember vividly a graphic front page where the World Bank was asking Ghana to reduce the price it was paying to cocoa farmers. Government felt that no, it wasn't the way to go because the industry was challenged at the time. Farmer income was generally low. So if you took a decision to reduce the farmer income at the time, the resultant effect will be that you will lose the entire industry because illegal mining was taking away the cocoa farms. People were converting cocoa farms to cashew, rubber, and other things. So the farmers were already demotivated. So reducing how much they were earning will amount to losing the entire industry. So the government decision was that no, COCOBOD should take facility from cocoa bills to at least shore up how much it was getting to pay the cocoa farmer. The effect is that, yes, it brings some debt in the books of COCOBOD. But the question you need to ask yourself is that, what was the best solution or best approach at the time?
And to protect farmers.
It to protect the cocoa industry by taking a facility to protect the farmer so that you maintain the farmers on the farm?
Or you reduce the
prices. The farmers abandon the farm, and today we would have been here having a conversation about the entire collapse of the cocoa industry. The important thing you need to note is that today, the prices have risen. We are seeing better price. So even though, yes, you made some losses, you have a better price going forward.
To be able to service
you'll be able to service those debts, which are on your books.
I'll come back from this break. So if you're watching us tonight, we have the privilege of having the head of PR Directorate at the Ghana COCOBOD, FIIFI BOAFO. And he's explaining some of the issues they've been facing to us. When I come back from this break, I'm going to ask him whether he thinks the cocoa industry, of course, Ghana COCOBOD, has been over-politicized and how the politics is coming around it. So when we come back, we'll do cocoa politics before we close. Stay with us. Right, so you're welcome back from the break. This is still the bottom line. We say business at the speed of thoughts. I have FIIFI BOAFO in here, and we are looking at the Ghana COCOBOD entirely. And let me come back. I said that I was going to ask you about the cocoa politics, but again, this is part of it. And someone also said I should ask you whether you're struggling. I mean, based on the question you just answered, whether you're struggling to secure currently a syndicated loan.
I wouldn't call it a struggle. We've had very meaningful conversation, fruitful conversation with the banks. Indeed, as we speak, there's no challenge. There's no challenge at all. As we speak, there's no challenge. A loan. The processes are ongoing. Usually we sign this August, September, and then we are not there yet. And then up to this point, there's no challenge. Of course, there's also a conversation as to whether or not there is the need to look at different means of raising revenue to finance the crop. I lack the capacity at this point to speak to where the conversation has reached and then what is looking at. But there's engagement with the banks. The engagement with the banks as of today, I have not heard or seen any challenge, and it's ongoing. Yes, you probably assume that considering the low production we're experiencing this year, it will give you some challenge. But then I said something at the beginning of this conversation. Managers have a responsibility to manage situations. So when a challenge comes, it is for you to address it. And then that conversation is ongoing. Managers have a responsibility to manage a situation when you are faced with it. Peter Otokuno, he believes that the NDC administration are better managers. My friend Otokuno wanted to be general secretary. Unfortunately, he lost. Well, he's my very good friend also. Anyway, I can even call him a brother.
But he has said very emphatically that you are worse off. You are poor managers of the cocoa industry, and that the administration during the NDC tenure was a better one. Looking at the figures that we have just been talking about.
Now, this government, because of the penchant to get money and, waste on frivolous things and not on investment in the sector, have gone into some, arrangements, some forward sales. And they are selling around some $2,000, $2,500 in most of the forward agreements. Last year, cocoa peaked at $3,200, which means that we're losing almost over $1,200 per ton. Now, as we speak, this month, last month, April, cocoa is now over 9,500 on forward sales on the ICE. The spot price is 6,650. If we are selling on spot price, we will be making about 105,000 per ton.
So you remember we had a conversation here about how to manage the cocoa soil in Shudvara disease.
I remember clearly, not too long ago.
So the people Otokono is praising are the people who took the decision by only producing seedlings and giving it to cocoa farmers to plant it under affected trees, and then losing the existing trees, and then letting the farmers waste their time by planting new cocoa seedlings under the affected trees. Is that a better managers he's talking about? That is for you to decide. Otokono is talking about better managers. Do you know that the new managers of the cocoa industry have introduced these policies which did not exist?
Does he have an appreciation of these policies that you are speaking about?
See,
he is looking at the end result, the figures that we are seeing now, the decline in the revenue that we are all talking about.
Unfortunately,
does he appreciate the policies that you have put in place?
My friend Otokono does not understand the issues.
You think so?
Oh, yes, he doesn't. You see,
he's an agric person. I know Otokono from University of Ghana.
So, when you come to COCOBOD, there are several backgrounds at the board. Even with the agric people, they are different. Even when you go to Cocoa Research Institute, they are the entomologists, they are the soil scientists. They are different backgrounds. So you cannot say that you are an agric person and you understand the entire industry. And even with CRIC, there are different fields of studies just at CRIC. When you come to cocoa marketing, that's a different thing. That is marketing, pure trading business. So it's a different business altogether. When you go to quality control, when it comes to quality assurance, that is a different field altogether. When you go to XPD, of course, just like you have plant breeders at CRIC, there are people who have responsibility of nursery. That is also a different field altogether. So you cannot assume that the mere fact that you've studied agriculture means that you understand agroeconomics, so you understand trading, you understand entomology, you understand plant breeding, you understand soil science. It doesn't work like that. Probably, for the uninitiated, you could just throw it in there. I'm an agroeconomist, I understand all the issues. I'm sorry, you do not. Because if you do, you will not struggle to comprehend the difference between spot sale and forward sales, which my friend demonstrated.
You are shortchanging farmers.
He doesn't even understand. He does not understand the difference, because if he does, he wouldn't say the things he was saying. So let me get a bit of explanation.
Let me allow you, because he made a statement
for the benefit.
The COCOBOD is shortchanging farmers. The 58% increment doesn't mean anything.
Bear in mind, let me say this. Otokono, the administration he was praising, only was paying cocoa farmers at 2017, September, up to 2017, because they fixed the price in October 2016 up to was 475 Ghana cedis. That's how much cocoa farmers were earning for a bag. Today, a cocoa farmer earns 2,070 Ghana cedis a bag. Do the multiplication. The percentage increase from 475 to 2,070.
But he says he was in the studio here. He says that from 2017 to 2021 you had not increased. So if you increase now, you will do the multiplication.
That is even inaccurate. That is inaccurate. Yes, for 2 years we did not see a price increase. But
so it wasn't 2017 to 2021.
It is not true. But it will shock you to note that under John Mahama as president, for 3 consecutive years, the price of cocoa was only increased by 7 Ghana cedis. 3 years, the price of cocoa was increased by 7 Ghana cedis.
From 20... No, I mean, I'm taking your words because you are coming from...
So what I would do...
COCOBOD. So I'm taking it as the official... statement from...
Yes,
from
so
COCOBOD.
What I will do is that I will actually go through the years for you, and then you appreciate these issues better. But I'm telling you that for 3 years, price was increased by 7 Ghana cedis. What is Otogono talking about? Otogono was talking about the fact that today we import cocoa, or we bring in cocoa for companies to process, and as a result of that is failure on the part of management. Clearly, he doesn't understand. Indeed, from the time Ghana took the decision to allow companies to set up here, in fact, from the President Kufuor's era, to set up here and process cocoa, what then happened was that because Ghana produces the best quality cocoa in the world, and as a result of that, your premium is more expensive compared to the other countries, you give the opportunity for other countries or the companies to also source cocoa from the other countries to mix with the best quality cocoa. Because when they export it, they buy the raw beans from here and export it to Amsterdam or to Switzerland. They mix it because they have a certain recipe and also to manage cost. So they do that. And this is a practice that has existed over the years. So the agric economist says that when you do that today, it amounts to lack of what do you call it, mismanagement. Then he doesn't understand. That's one. It will interest you to know that WAMCO, which is based in Takoradi, did not have cocoa to process. Indeed, there were several processing companies. WAMCO is one, Plot is another. These are 2 companies at least. Plot is a Ghanaian company owned by a Ghanaian. WAMCO is owned by a foreigner, but COCOBOD has shares in that company. To the extent, unfortunately, that WAMCO did not have cocoa to process. So they had to shut down the company. When the company was shut down, the workers came to Accra to petition Parliament. On their way back around Cape Coast, they had an accident and some of them died. Was that mismanagement? Is that what he's comparing? Today the companies are processing, and he says that in fact, indeed, Honorable said
they don't have cocoa to process.
Yes, WAMCO, Plot. They closed down Plot. It's in Takoradi. What is Otogono talking about? That today, because a company, I have several letters that were written by companies to bring in cocoa. But there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that because it is a practice that has existed since the time Ghana took the decision to allow companies to set up here. So if you come and sit here and say that because it is happening today, it's as a result of incompetence, clearly it is lack of knowledge. And lack of knowledge, you seek to confuse everybody and deceive people. Unfortunately, just like my friend.
I mean, let me be able to move away from him. And unfortunately, time. But one other thing he says is about the fertilizer they were given free of charge to farmers. I mean, the kind of support they were giving to farmers. And you are here talking about all of the policies you've put in place. And in the near future, we are going to experience huge revenue and huge returns and so on and so forth.
Okay.
But you are charging farmers for fertilizers.
A bag of fertilizer today is over 500 Ghana cedis. Farmers are supposed to pay 86 Ghana cedis for a bag. That's what is happening. The price of a bag is over 800. It's over 500.
500 Ghana cedis.
Yes, and then all farmers are supposed to pay is 80.
So 414
is given to the farmer.
Borne by the government?
Borne by the government. And he's saying that you had a policy. And this time around, this is the difference. The difference is that today, COCOBOD does not only procure and go to the regional capital or the district capital and dump it there and allow political apparatchiks to go and determine who gets what. And then very limited is given to the farmer. What we do today is that COCOBOD actually procures, gives it to the cocoa farmers associations. It's called the farmer cooperatives. If the farmer is at Agro-Esum, it is not sent to the district capital. It is sent to Agro-Esum, and the farmers pick it there and take it to their farms. And it is not because you are a farmer who belongs to a political party A or political party B, or you have an affiliation with somebody, or you know somebody. That's when you get it. It is given to the farmer. Apart from that, do you know that COCOBOD today is doing pruning for farmers across the country? And that is at no cost to the farmer. Is that a farmer being shortchanged? Do you know that COCOBOD, at present, is doing pollination for the cocoa farmers? Hitherto, in fact, it was only limited to the seed gardens of COCOBOD. COCOBOD is doing that for the cocoa farmer. Is that what we call the shortchanging of the cocoa farmer? Clearly, Otokono does not understand the issues, and he seeks to confuse everybody by making these claims. He was talking about the year-on-year increment.
Inflation, yeah.
Yeah, increment we're talking about. So between 2016 and 2017, the price per ton was 7,600. We maintained that there was no increase in 2017-18. The following year, the same happened. But the third year, it changed to 8.4. The following year, 28.2% increase. The following year, there was no increase. But then the subsequent year, which is 2022-2023, it was increased by 21%. This year alone, we've seen 158.75% increase in how much the farmer earns. And that's what he calls shortchanging. They go and pick what they see on the internet to be the price of cocoa and use it as a basis to say that, oh, if this is the price, then if you are paying the farmer this, then you ask yourself, does he understand the issues? Because if you do, you will know that the cocoa, you done forward sales, you achieved a certain amount, and that is the basis, and the amount achieved was 2,600. If you do the mathematics, at the time we were revising the price in April, the achieved FOB was 2,600. How much the farmer earned was $2,509. In effect, the farmer was getting over 90%, about 93% of how much COCOBOD was realizing. Is that shortchanging the farmer?
Are you saying he was doing politics with?
See, for me, I am tempted to say he was doing politics with it. But the reality is also that politics does not also mean misinformation.
But have you tried to inform? I mean, you believe that not just Otokono, the entire country, let's say even NDC is a major stakeholder to the things you do.
I agree, but
have you tried to
the point is that
make them appreciate the improvements that have happened?
There are people who have worked in government before, and then they've worked at COCOBOD, so they obviously understand these issues, and they are part of the NDC. So your expectation is that such persons would also help the people who are making these claims to understand the issues. Okay, so let me help you with this information. The figures I was referring to.
Right.
So this is 2011, 2012. Don't forget, Professor Mills died in 2011, 2012. 2012, actually.
2012.
Yeah, so
3 months to the elections.
2011. This was the price of cocoa. It was 3,280. 3,280. It was increased to 3,382. Okay, so this is where it moved from 3,280 to 3,200 in 2010, 2011 to 3,280. That's 2.5%. The following year, it's increased. That's a ton. It's not for a bag.
Yeah.
A ton. So we divide it by 16.
Exactly.
The following year, it increased from 3,392 it also increased by 3.4%. That's 2012.
So from the 3,280 to 3,392.
Yes. The following year, it increased to 3,392, meaning it was 0% increase. So just do the calculation. From the year 2010 to the year 2013-14, it only increased from 3,200 to 3,392. So that is 192. So let me just do the calculation for you so you appreciate it better. So when these people come, then you understand the kind of... So it is 192 divided by 16. That is 12 cedis. From 2010 to 2013-14.
4 years.
That's how much it increased. And he says that somebody who has increased the price from 2016-17 from 475 a bag to 2070 to 2,070 cedis a bag, is shortchanging the farmer.
Do you think the entire, my time is up, but do you think the entire cocoa industry has been over-politicized?
I of course, I've followed politics for a number of years, so I could appreciate it. It is estimated that between 3 to 4 million people directly benefit or rely on the cocoa industry. And if you are a politician and you have a constituency that has about 3 to 4 million people, because if you're looking about the voters we have, and there's a particular segment that has these numbers, it's a very important sector to target, or a constituency to target. So definitely you have the politicization coming in, except to say that the politicization must not lead to the destruction of the industry. I say so because I'll give you a critical example. COCOBOD at the time had signed a syndication facility. We're supposed to draw down about $400 million. Farmers were calling for monies to be paid to them because they are selling their cocoa. The minority held a press conference. When the minority held a press conference, their claim was that all the money COCOBOD had procured from the facility had been squandered. So when COCOBOD took the decision to draw down, the banker said, no, let us establish whether or not
the monies have been
squandered or not. The calls were coming. Management had to go to Bank of Ghana to take a facility at an interest rate of about 17%.
Wow.
That interest rate would have been needless.
Avoided easily.
But for that press conference by the minority, that is the cost we pay for the politicization. On top of that, today, the price of cocoa has been increased. At a time where you have already sold your cocoa at $2,600, but you are still giving the farmer over $2,500. The only reason you can use for this is a way of incentivizing the farmers and motivating the farmers that, you know what, there's better price going into the next season.
So continue production,
let us
increase production.
So we can take advantage of it. And then you hold a press conference, oh, they are cheating you. They are insensitive. Your money is going waste. You only demotivate the farmers such that the farmer will not put in the effort and we will all lose the benefit we have to realize from the industry. Is that the way to go? I hold a different position.
In 30 seconds. In fact, my time is actually up. But in 30 seconds, what's happening to the pension scheme?
The pension scheme, I am happy to report that farmers, some selected districts, we've started deduction from the farmers. The expectation is that by October this year, deduction across the country will start.
So it is on course?
So it is on course. The remaining farmers who have not been enumerated, the expectation is that July, all the remaining farmers will be enumerated, and by October, every farmer will be on the pension scheme. And that is what they call mismanagement.
FIIFI BOAFO is head of the Public Relations Directorate of the Ghana COCOBOD. I'm happy to have hosted him tonight. And some of the questions that were bothering your minds have been answered. And of course, what he calls misinformation peddled by some people have also been put right. My name is FIIFI. This is the Bottomline. Thank you very much for staying with us. Good evening.